Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, you will learn about some of the standard English tests used to assess and certify the proficiency of an English user, may it be as a second or foreign language. Standardized English tests are also called English proficiency tests. These are commercially produced English tests required of international or non-native English students and employees to prove their English proficiency as part of their applications. This ensures that they have the necessary English skills to understand academic writing, produce scholarly writing, and communicate effectively with their supervisor. Some of the most widely accepted English proficiency tests are the TOEFL, TOEIC, and IELTS. These tests commonly have sections that measure reading and listening, and then writing and speaking in English. In this course, English 29, you will be introduced to the characteristics of the reading and listening sections of these exams. You will also be given practice tests so that you will already be somehow prepared when you encounter them in the near future. Now, here are screenshots of actual job posts that show the requirement for an English test score. For IELTS, the highest band score is 9. The lowest passing band for the skilled category is usually 6.5, but as you can see, there are also agencies that accept an IELTS band score of even 5 or 5.5. In 2016, when I took the IELTS exam, I actually met this nurse who received a job order in London. She was taking the test for the third time, and it was because she did not reach the required band score during her past attempts. The Nursing and Midwifery Council of UK only accepts the academic IELTS test, and to apply to become a nurse in the UK, applicants should actually receive or achieve an IELTS score band of 7 in the reading, listening, and speaking sections, and 6.5 in writing, or an overall 7 band score. Now, on this slide is an example screenshot where you can see the TOEIC test score requirement for various international jobs. Even the well-known US Fulbright Scholarship requires an English proficiency certification. Do you know the Fulbright Scholarship? Okay, it's one of the well-known scholarships in the world. Aside from the GRE, or Graduate Record Examination, for the Fulbright Scholarship in the US, the chosen finalists will be required to take the TOEFL, or the test of English as a foreign language, and get a score of no less than 90. The maximum TOEFL score is 120 points, by the way. Okay, now that we have established the practical reasons why it is necessary to know these tests as well as their importance, especially to you in the future, allow me to introduce some of the common English tests. We have the IELTS, or the International English Language Testing System, the TOEFL, or the test of English as a foreign language. Third is the TOEIC, or the test of English for international communication. Fourth, the Pearson test of English, or the PTE. And lastly, for this lecture, the Occupational English Test, or OET. Now, there are other English tests out there. In this lecture, we will only be covering 5. And on this slide are their logos. Okay, now first we have the International English Language Testing System, or the IELTS, which is widely recognized by universities and employers around the world. There are 2 versions of the test, the academic version and the general training version. While universities require the academic version, the general training version is used by some government bodies for work and immigration permits. The test is offered in either a paper format or a computer format. Unlike the TOEFL though, the speaking portion of the IELTS test is done in person with an examiner either on the same day as the other sections of the test or up to 3 days before or after. When I took the test in 2016, I was given the speaking exam right after the reading and listening tests. Furthermore, the IELTS has more diverse question formats as well, with a mix of multiple choice, diagram labeling, matching, short answer, and sentence completion. It also lasts for 2 hours and 45 minutes or almost 3 hours. The reading test is given an hour, the writing is for another hour, the listening test is for 30 to 40 minutes, while the speaking test, which is done in person, lasts for about 11 to 14 minutes. After taking the test, the examinee is given a score that range from 1 to 9, including half scores, for example, 7.5. The certification is valid for only 2 years. Many universities require scores in the range of 6 to 7. In the Philippines, the IELTS test costs around 9,000 to almost 12,000. I mentioned a while ago that I took the test in 2016, and it's because I applied for my tenure position in MCL. And when they acknowledged my application, they required me to take the IELTS test and they paid for it. Let me just also share with you this meme I found online. I think it's funny, but it also somehow speaks the truth. What do you think? It says here, IELTS is for 92,000 in their country. Can you imagine? 92K to prove I can speak and listen to English. After colonization, I still need to pay 92K to prove I was colonized sufficiently. What do you think? Okay, next is the TOEFL test, or the test of English as a foreign language. It is probably the best known and most commonly used English proficiency test. And along with the IELTS, it is one of the 2 tests that are usually accepted by American universities. The TOEFL was designed specifically to test knowledge of English as it is used in a college or university setting. The current test is called the TOEFL IBT. There are currently 3 formats or options for the TOEFL IBT. The traditional testing center format, meaning you can take the test in a testing center. The home edition, wherein you take the test while at home, online, or a paper edition. With the exception of the paper edition, the TOEFL is done entirely on a computer, either at your home or at the testing center. Your answers to the speaking portion of the test are recorded and then sent to graders for evaluation. It's not like the IELTS speaking test, wherein you have to come in person to be interviewed by an expert. Like IELTS, it tests English reading, listening, writing, and speaking proficiency, and can be completed in around 3 hours. Each section is worth 30 points for a maximum score of 120. There is no passing score for TOEFL test because each university or other institution sets its own requirements. But many universities require scores in the range of 90 to 100. In Harvard, 109 is the minimum grade requirement. The cost of the test also varies according to location, but 200,000 US dollars is the average. As of this year, the price of the TOEFL exam in the Philippines is approximately 13,921 pesos and 35 centavos. When you pay online using your credit or debit card, the currency is automatically converted. In 2014, it was only around about 9,000 pesos, depending on the US exchange rate. Its certificate validity is also for 2 years, like the IELTS certificate. TOEIC, or the Test of English for International Communication, is another test which is over 40 years old already. It is a standardized language proficiency exam that assesses one's ability to communicate, comprehend, and use English in a workplace environment. Moreover, the TOEIC exam is designed to evaluate a person's ability to establish effective communication in a multicultural setting. So meaning to say, the speakers in a TOEIC test are multicultural. You will hear different accents. Next, the TOEIC test is also derived primarily from the TOEFL test. However, they differ in format and test focus. Much like the other tests, the TOEIC exam fee varies depending on the testing center location. The TOEIC test costs around $140 for each of the TOEIC programs, such as the TOEIC listening and reading test and the TOEIC speaking and writing test. However, the TOEIC is a bit cheaper compared to the other English proficiency tests. All right. Before we move on to the last two types of English proficiency tests in this lecture, I'd like you to know that in this course, we will only be focusing on the formats of the IELTS and TOEIC tests. Okay, why is it so? It's because aside from these two being a very common requirement for Filipino migrants and students abroad, actually upon your graduation from MCL, you will also be tasked to take the TOEIC test. You can see here an example announcement about the certification which took place last June. Next is the Pearson test of English, or PTE. It is a computer-based English language proficiency test that is globally accepted also. It is a test aimed at non-native speakers of English looking to study abroad. It tests writing, reading, listening, and speaking as well. Aside from being internationally recognized, most candidates prefer the PTE test because of its reliability and easy accessibility, as it is fully computerized. The whole test can be taken in just 3 hours. And artificial intelligence technology also powers it for its grading system. It also delivers quick test results about 48 hours after taking the test. Its certificate is also valid for 2 years. Furthermore, there is no passing score for the PTE exam. Most educational institutes accept an average score of 65 versus the highest, which is 90 in the PTE test. In Australia, international students may get a bachelor's degree with a PTE score of overall 50 with no skill less than 46. For admission into a master's program, the students need to have a higher scores in PTE, of course. The requirement for a master's program is overall 58 with no communicative score less than 50. Requirements may be higher depending on the course a person wishes to study. Meanwhile, it costs around $210 to $220 depending on the type of test. In Philippine peso, the fee is around 11,000 to a little bit more than 12,000. Lastly, for this lecture, we have the OET, or the Occupational English Test, which is an international English language proficiency test for healthcare professionals. It was designed in the late 1980s, and it's a test for health professionals who want to register and practice in an English-speaking environment. It is trusted by regulators, hospitals, and universities in the UK, US, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Dubai, and Singapore. It has 4 subtests. The listening test is for about 50 minutes, the reading for an hour, the writing test is for 45 minutes, while the speaking test is for approximately 20 minutes. It has 3 types. It may be taken at home, on computer at a test venue, and traditionally on paper at a test venue as well. Whichever test type you choose or an examinee chooses, the test tasks, format, and level of difficulty remain the same. Its certificate is also valid for 2 years and it costs around 21,600 pesos to take the overall OET test. It is a bit expensive, and this may be the reason why some agencies require IELTS instead of OET for some health professionals. If you want to read more about the points mentioned in this lecture, you may visit these websites. This is the end of the lecture. Thank you very much for your time.